The courtroom was freezing that day, but maybe that was fitting, because my marriage had already gone cold long before we sat in front of that judge. I remember sitting there, staring at the polished wood of the defense table, my hands gripping it so hard my knuckles turned white. Across from me, my wife, soon to be my ex-wife, sat with this smug little smile. She leaned back, crossed her legs, and tapped her expensive red-bottom heels against the floor like she already knew she'd won. "Your Honor," she purred, her voice dripping with venom. "Let's be honest. My husband, he's like a workhorse, reliable, predictable, and very, very easy to ride." The room gasped. A few chuckles slipped out from her lawyer's side. Even the judge barely raised an eyebrow before quieting the whispers with his gavel. I clenched my jaw but stayed silent. She wanted me to snap, to give her a show. But I wasn't going to hand her that satisfaction. Not today. Because what she didn't know was that this trial wasn't the end of my story. It was only the beginning. For 8 years, I gave her everything. I worked myself to the bone while she found herself. I paid for her vacations, her shopping sprees, her procedures, all under the belief that we were a team. And how did she repay me? By dragging me through this courtroom after stealing my house, half my business, and then parading her new boyfriend, some slick corporate lawyer, into the back row to watch my humiliation. I had caught them months earlier, tangled in the sheets I had paid for. That image had been seared into my mind ever since. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had been preparing for this moment, quietly, patiently. And when the judge asked if I had a response, I decided it was time to show her who I had become. Slowly, I stood. My fingers moved to the buttons of my shirt. One by one, I undid them. The courtroom fell silent, confused, curious. My wife's smirk faltered. Her boyfriend leaned forward, suddenly uneasy. When I finally slipped the shirt off, the gasps started. I wasn't the same man she had mocked. Not anymore. Months of training, discipline, and pain had carved me into someone unrecognizable. Scars lined my torso, marks of struggle, of survival. And right over my heart, fresh ink, a workhorse breaking free of its chains. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone, especially her. She had called me a workhorse. Well, this workhorse was done being ridden. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "For 8 years, I gave you everything. My time, my money, my loyalty, and you repaid me with betrayal." Then, with deliberate calm, I reached for the manila envelope I'd been keeping close. I slammed it onto the table. The thud echoed through the courtroom. Inside proof. Page after page of financial fraud, hidden transfers, false expenses, designer clothes, and luxury trips with her boyfriend, all billed under my company's name. The judge's expression hardened as he flipped through the documents. My wife's confidence shattered in real time. Her lawyer fumbled, stammering excuses, but the judge silenced him. And then came the twist. I turned, locking eyes with her boyfriend. The smugness drained from his face as I pulled out a USB drive. "This," I said, "contains recordings of you and my wife discussing how to bleed me dry before she filed for divorce." His face went pale. He hadn't known. He thought he was in on the plan, when really she had been planning to take him down too. The trap snapped shut. The judge ordered all assets frozen. My wife's carefully constructed empire crumbled in seconds. Her lawyer looked defeated. Her boyfriend looked like he wanted to crawl out of his own skin. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Because I hadn't just survived her betrayal, I had outplayed her. After the hearing, her boyfriend cut ties almost immediately. His firm distanced itself from him. His career? Finished. And her? She was left with nothing. No money, no man, no power. And then, a week later, she came crawling back. I'll never forget the knock on my door. She stood there trying to look polished, but the desperation in her eyes gave her away. Her jewelry was gone. Her voice was trembling. "I miss you," she whispered. "We can fix this." I almost laughed. She didn't miss me. She missed the life I had built for her. So I reached into my wallet, pulled out a single dollar bill and handed it to her. Consider it my last act of generosity. Then I closed the door. And that was the last time I ever saw Jessica Hayes. When I deleted her last message begging me to talk, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was free. She thought she had broken me. But in the end, she broke herself. And me? I didn't just walk away from that courtroom with my dignity. I walked away with something far more powerful. My freedom. If you were in my shoes, would you have let her back in? Or would you have shut the door for good like I did? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit you as hard as it hit me living it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this.